I'm going to read you an email that I just sent to Charles Marlowe, the Vegan Cheetah, today. It's an email I thought I would never write. It's an email that I composed in response to Cheetah saying, not to me in particular, not to anyone in particular, in the last video that he posted, that he has regrets, that he realizes he's done wrong, that he realizes he's harmed other people, and that basically he looks back on his own content and he's aware that a lot of it is garbage. I appreciate that. And the reality is, as you're going to see in this message all along, my perspective on Cheetah's content has been different from maybe anyone else in the audience because I didn't just know that he was lying. I knew that he was lying. And that's a very different thing. A lot of people who are on the internet playing this game don't have it under control, don't know when they're lying, don't know when they're defaming somebody. And Cheetah does. He does, and he did. And that's why I think he's capable of apologizing for it, turning a bad situation to a positive situation and moving on. Now, will he? I doubt it. The question is, what do I do for my part in my position? And what would I want other people to do if our positions were reversed? Guys, that's not a hard question to ask yourself. With any of these debates or any of these conflicts, with people who leapt at their chance, and it still happens now, leaping at their chance to show that they're morally superior to me, to snub me, to escalate some little conflict into something much more vile than it needs to be. Ask yourself, what if one of them had written me an email as nice as the email I'm about to read you that I just sent to Vegan Cheetah? Now again, Cheetah has defamed me in a very serious way. He's defamed me in terms of alleging that I'm engaged in financial fraud, that I'm a scam artist. He's made allegations about my personal life and my sex life more times than I can count. He's alleged that I'm facing criminal charges as a wife beater and so on. And yet, this is what I said when I wrote to him, I don't know, just an hour ago, earlier today. Charles, I did see your generalized apology or statement of regret in your most recent video. You know also that I would have difficulty hating you for the things you said and did against me in the last 6 months or so, because I know how fake it was. I know that you never believed the lies you told, whereas, to be honest, there are people on YouTube who actually believe this stuff. You know also that I was being sincere when I said that I don't think you're nearly as stupid as the people sitting next to you on the same bench. When you're sitting next to Nina and Randa, or you're sitting next to Ryan from Happy Healthy Vegan, you're playing dumb, but they're really dumb. I neither meant that as flattery nor as an insult, but just as a statement of fact. Do you want to patch it up? We could talk via Skype and not even mention past conflict, not even mention veganism. You can just talk to me like a human being and express the same sort of generalized regret for the harm you've done, and it will go a long way towards humanizing you for your audience. It doesn't cost you anything to say that you're sorry. Everyone knows, for example, that you just made up the story about Anna Scanlon out of thin air. Everyone knows you were just trying to entertain your audience. And everyone knows that you now want to move on and make videos about how happy you are with your girlfriend, etc., instead of doing hatchet jobs against other vegans. Even if you don't apologize, if we just record you talking to me like a normal human being, not pretending to be this fictional character, the Vegan Cheetah, talking to me in a sensitive way, expressing concern and interest about any of these issues, but for example, about the progress of my own divorce case, people will, to some extent, stop hating you for being such a cartoon character. The reality is, Charles, there have never been criminal charges against me, not for wife beating and not for anything else. And instead, there are now criminal charges against my ex-wife as part and parcel of the divorce. That's not drama, that's not scandal, and that's not something that would be exciting to present to your audience in a shocking way. It's just human reality that two friends could talk about with some level of sympathy and understanding. Honesty is the only currency we've got. Sharing that kind of real talk is the only thing that earns your audience's loyalty and interest on YouTube. End of quote, end of email. So look, what is the point? The point is to do good in whatever way you can in this life. Sending that email, Charles may never reply. He doesn't have to reply. But it's me reaching out to him in a positive and constructive way at a time when it could do some good for me to reach out to him. If I send him an email just calling him an idiot, that's not going to do any harm, but it's not going to do any good either. Now, have I ever received an email like that from someone willing to talk and willing to listen? Have I ever received an email like that from Jeff Nelson? Never. From Unnatural Vegan? Never. I mean, I'm picking the most respectable. Have I ever received an email like that from Martin Lewis or, the various people who are more like muckrakers? Have I ever received an email like that from Durian Rider or Freely? Never. Absolutely nobody at any level in this game has ever sent me an email remotely resembling that. Neither out of curiosity nor expressing support or what have you. And, there's a lot of misconceptions about me, partly because I openly say to people, look, I'm not a nice guy. I'm not playing by these nice guy rules. I'm not trying to convince my audience that I'm a nice guy. I'm not trying to flatter people and say that their content is good when I think it's garbage. I'm not trying to flatter people and say that they're brilliant when I think they're idiots. There are a lot of phony games I don't play as part of keeping it real. On the other hand, of course, I can recognize when a conflict between two people is fundamentally shallow and could be easily resolved. And even though my conflict with Cheetah is very obvious, it's out in the open, everyone can see what the conflict is, it's also true that it is shallow and could be easily resolved. Now, by contrast, I think the conflict between me and Unnatural Vegan, for many people, it's not obvious. Many people write to me and say, it took them 6 months to figure out what the conflict between me and Unnatural Vegan even was. No shade. I understand. It's a little more ideologically complex. But it's interesting. By contrast, the conflict between me and Unnatural Vegan, it's very profound. It's very deep. I don't think it ever could be resolved. And she's also somebody who's never been willing to listen to criticism. It's always such an irony. She says that about me, but it's really true of her. She's never been willing to debate the underlying issues. She's never been willing to apologize for anything, admit that she's wrong. And that is a difference that runs so deep. It gets right down to the core question of what is veganism, what is the future of the movement, and so on. Now, that's not what this video is about. I'm just presenting it as a contrast. Knowing Charles as I do, and knowing even the new direction he wants to take in his channel, he's been through several different metamorphoses on that channel. It is really not hard for me to imagine him just saying, yes, all of these lies he made up out of thin air, of him just saying in a general sense that he regrets hurting people, lying to people, doing what he did back when he was in a crazed rush to entertain his audience, sometimes for 4 hours a day live streaming. It's not hard for me to see him saying that he's sorry when it costs him nothing to say that he's sorry and it gains him everything, right? Not hard to imagine that at all. In my recent video about my political position, where I had this video called Why I Am Not Left Wing, one of the main things I tried to emphasize there was having the humility and pragmatism to look at a situation and not see it in terms of left versus right or the poor versus the rich or simple ideological categories, to not see it in terms of flags, but to look at it in an analytical way and say, what can I do to make this situation better? And, to answer that question, whether it's about Cambodia or Colombia or northern Saskatchewan in Canada, it takes humility and a very strange form of engagement, of research, to figure out what can I do as a powerless individual, what can me and my group of friends do to actually make this situation better. And hey, the answer may be nothing. The answer may be incredibly small and incredibly shallow. But yeah, when I look at these situations, I'm not looking at them in terms of right and wrong even. I am looking at them from the pragmatic perspective of what can I do to make things better. There's no question that Cheetah is in the wrong. There's already a video on this channel called, My Final Judgment on Vegan Cheetah, where I'm absolutely laying into him and letting him know everything he does wrong. I've not stopped short of judgment. My point is not at all, judge ye not, lest you be judged. Judge. Go ahead. Make the judgment. But judgment isn't an end in itself, right? Character assassination is not an end in itself. Here's my judgment. Here's what the situation is. Now, what can I do to make it better? So yeah, even somebody like Cheetah, and I've done this in the past with other people. Joe Best is another great example. Joe Best did so many unforgivable things to me. He defamed me so many times, and I kept reaching out to him positively again and again. Why? Yes, on the one hand, exactly what I've just said. I can pass judgment on somebody, but then the next question is, what do we do now? How do I actually make the situation better? And beyond that, what I'm doing on this channel is not chasing views, is not chasing subscribers. On a profound level, I'm really not a fame whore. For me, this really is about the future of the movement. And when it's about the future of the movement, then even when you're looking across the table, you're looking across the table at someone you may despise, whether that's, Joe Best or Joe Vegan or Ryan from Happy Healthy Vegan, is maybe someone you have such profound differences with that you feel no kinship with them, to say the least, or maybe someone who's hurt you or insulted you or defamed you. It's not about me, all right? It's about the movement. So what am I going to do next? Where am I going to go from here? How can we build something positive starting right now? And that's also why, by the way, I'm constantly reaching out to people who are not famous, who do not have more subscribers to me. I'm not out here fame whoring. I'm very happy to bring onto the channel someone like Stephen Fate, also known as Stephen Fight, this lawyer I just uploaded another podcast with. Because I'm not looking at people thinking, how can this help my channel grow? How can I get another 5,000 viewers or another 5,000 subscribers? I'm actually looking at these people thinking, who can make a positive difference in organizing real activism, in doing something positive for the movement in the next 5 years? And if Freely phoned me up and wanted to have a conversation on the channel, I'd do it. I'd have, just out of fucking kinship with my fellow vegans. Totally. But when I look ahead to the next 5 years, who do I think really matters and is really going to make a decisive difference? Is it Freely, or is it somebody with a degree in law doing basically lobbying for ecological causes in Washington, D.C.? On some level, all of you know the answer. Are we talking about chasing fame, or are we talking about building foundations? Are we talking about dead-ended drama just for the sake of people's ego, or are we talking about the future of the movement? You know what I'm talking about, but on the other hand, vegan drama is a part of my life. These are people I know. These are people I care about. These are people who absolutely shape the way I use YouTube, and they're probably the reason why half the people watching this video discovered my channel in the first place. What can I say? I'm a snob, but I'm not so much of a snob that I would ignore what I saw Cheetah saying in that most recent video of his. I see a guy who's sitting there. He knows that he's told lies. He knows that he's defamed people. He knows that what he's been doing has been mean-spirited and malicious and destructive for so many months now. And he knows he's better than that. And he wants to move on. And he wants to make better content. And I'm sure at bottom that's motivated by the fact that he has a new girlfriend and a new apartment. And he just feels he's moving on to something better in his life. It's how it goes for so many of us. I'm a snob, but I'm not so much of a snob that I would see that and just turn up my nose and ignore it, or just see that and sneer and think, serves you right.